Now, before we dive into Sophie's story, I want to thank you guys so much for being here. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and of course, ring that notification bell if you want to stay up to date on everything that we upload here on the channel. Alrighty, so before we talk about the recent comments that are going viral all over social media, we need a little backstory on Sophie Cunningham and all the things that have happened to her during her career in the WNBA, because this is not her first time treading into treacherous waters with the online mob. So the player Sophie Cunningham has been in the WNBA for a bit, but in terms of her widespread notoriety, especially online, she really took off last year after an altercation with fellow player JC Sheldon.
Over the past several days, online debate has intensified around WNBA fan favorite Sophie Cunningham after she stated that biological males should not compete in women's sports or be allowed in women's locker rooms. When asked about the comments again, she didn't apologize, soften her stance, or walk anything back. Instead, she reaffirmed her position. Supporters argue that repeated public outrage campaigns often have the opposite effect, making outspoken people even more determined to stand by their beliefs rather than retreating under pressure.
So Sophie plays for the Indiana Fever, like Caitlin Clark, and they were playing against the Connecticut STUNS back in 2025. And for essentially the entire game, STUNS players had been ganging up on Caitlin Clark, which unfortunately, we've talked about this before, but that is something that was happening a lot over the last couple of years. And towards the end of the game, STUNS player JC Sheldon literally poked Clark in the eye. And so with seconds to spare at the end of the game, Cunningham literally came up from behind, grabbed Sheldon, pulled her to the ground, resulting in a flagrant foul and her being removed from the game. And here are those two moments you can see.
To understand why the reaction has become so intense, it helps to look back at Cunningham's recent rise in popularity. Although she had already spent several years in the WNBA, her profile exploded after a physical confrontation during a game alongside Caitlin Clark. During a matchup against the Connecticut Sun, JC Sheldon poked Clark in the eye. Moments later, Cunningham grabbed Sheldon from behind and pulled her to the floor, earning a flagrant foul and an ejection as tensions boiled over.
And here are those two moments. You can see them happening back to back. You can see Caitlin Clark, she's number 22. She is walking away. She's pulling her face down from her eye. She's obviously in pain. And then they're going to cut to what Sophie Cunningham did in response. Oh, straight down to the ground, and then it turned into an all-out girl fight after the buzzer. So obviously, like, pretty badass. Most people on the internet were obsessed. They were so happy to see somebody standing up for Caitlin Clark. That
video of the incident quickly spread across TikTok and X, with many fans praising Cunningham for defending her teammate. The viral moment reportedly led to sponsorship opportunities and a massive increase in social media followers almost overnight. But as her popularity grew, critics argued that her success had less to do with the incident itself and more with her race and appearance, claiming white players received more favorable public treatment than black athletes displaying similar competitiveness.
That moment went ridiculously viral. All over TikTok, all over X, she was praised for standing up for her beloved teammate. And from there, the partnerships and the sponsorships just started rolling in. I also think she gained almost like close to 1 million followers overnight on TikTok after that moment happened. So literally, even though she'd been playing for a while, she exploded on the scene, on the internet, overnight. But with fame and positivity also comes the bitter trolls, and the bitter trolls did arrive as well. As her fame grew, the detractors claimed that she was only finding success because she was white.
Those arguments became central to an ESPN feature examining Cunningham's growing popularity. A University of Michigan professor suggested that Cunningham's enforcer image was celebrated, while black athletes displaying similar physical play were more often labeled aggressive or classless. The article also argued that Cunningham's traditional appearance and close association with Caitlin Clark helped shape public perception and attract endorsement opportunities from major brands.
She was white! Obviously, the only reason she was going viral was because she was white and attractive. Meanwhile, black players like Angel Reese were getting called aggressive and thuggish or ghetto for having similar dominant behaviors on the court, and it just wasn't fair. For example, in a recent ESPN piece, by the way, this is also the source of the trans controversy, but we will get to that. But in that same ESPN article, a Michigan professor who, by the way, is the director of the Center for Race and Ethnicity in Sport at the university said, the moniker that has often been associated with Sophie is that she...
Critics of that argument responded by pointing out that no specific players were identified as having missed sponsorships they supposedly deserved. They also noted that Angel Reese has secured endorsement deals with companies including Reebok, Beats by Dre, Amazon, McDonald's, Barbie, and Reese's. From that perspective, brands appear to reward visibility and audience engagement rather than race alone, and Cunningham, Clark, and Reese have all benefited from becoming highly recognizable figures.
Moniker that has often been associated with Sophie is that she is the enforcer. Black female athletes, when they're too aggressive, it's labeled as classless or dangerous. That's hostile, that's violent. That language matters, Armstrong says. It tells a story, it tells a different kind of story depending on the protagonist. TLDR, depending on whether they are white or black, is what she's saying. There have been black players that have had the enforcer moniker. They didn't get endorsements with Ring or ADT or Vivint. None of those came to them. We didn't see the same type of media clamoring to them to represent their brands, to be their endorsers. Who Cunningham is white.
Some observers also argued Cunningham's popularity is closely connected to Caitlin Clark's own rise. Clark had already become one of the most talked about athletes in basketball, and Cunningham's decision to defend her teammate reinforced that public image. Later, when Cunningham discussed online criticism, she said she wasn't sure the league could do much beyond public statements, adding that people working in entertainment have to develop personal resilience while continuing to support others whenever possible.
We didn't see the same type of media clamoring to them to represent their brands, to be their endorsers. Who Cunningham is white, feminine, presenting. Yes, she doesn't look like a butch lesbian when she walks onto the court, just saying. And in line with traditional beauty norms, Armstrong notes. And just as critically, who Caitlin Clark is, helped set the tone for what Cunningham did last season and how it was received. So because she is white, because she is attractive, because she is feminine, people liked the fact that she stood up for her teammate, and they liked the fact that she plays in a strong, aggressive way. All right, now, first of all, just to respond to the initial part of her argument, those general players that you are talking about, the nameless players that you are lamenting over.
That answer sparked another round of criticism. The MLK Jr. Foundation reposted the interview, arguing that racist and anti-LGBTQ harassment shouldn't simply be treated as outside noise requiring greater mental toughness. Critics said the league should take stronger institutional action instead of placing responsibility on individual players. Others defended Cunningham's comments as a reasonable emphasis on personal resilience rather than dismissal of online abuse.
That you are talking about, the nameless players that you are lamenting over, they did not get sponsorships because we don't know who they are. I'm sorry, but we literally don't. You don't even list their names. Who are the people that should be getting sponsorships? Like, objectively, there are not a ton of people, comparatively, who watch the WNBA. That is growing, which is great, thanks to people like Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, which we will get to her. But who are the people? We don't know them. Like, if those nameless people that you feel like deserve the same things that Sophie Cunningham is getting, those black players, if they had a big...
This also wasn't Cunningham's first controversy. She had previously drawn criticism for liking posts supportive of Donald Trump, questioning vaccine mandates, and following conservative social media accounts. Critics connected her views to activist Riley Gaines and Turning Point USA, while supporters argued that following people across the political spectrum doesn't necessarily reveal someone's complete political beliefs or affiliations.
Kathy Engelbert's white. That's the thing. Kathy Engelbert's probably not the right person for the job. But is she going to be gone for the right reason? Who's going to take over? There's been some abominations out there that have been suggested. Left-wing lunatics like Stacey Abrams. What? You got to be, that would be the worst thing this league could possibly do. I would crush this league 10 times.
In the same ESPN profile, Cunningham addressed internet nicknames like MAGA Barbie, dismissing them as assumptions based on her appearance and background. She said she speaks about women's sports because she has spent her career competing in them. Cunningham rejected claims that she hates transgender people, saying she believes in leading with love while also protecting opportunities for female athletes and maintaining women's locker rooms for biological women.
Crush this league 10 times worse than I do right now. But it looks like Kathy Engelbert is done after this year. That's what ESPN is reporting. This brand new article from Alexa Philippou has dropped this morning. And this is very interesting. So, right here, in the darkest days of the past 12 months, full of public vitriol and contentious labor negotiation, Kathy Engelbert leaned on teachings.
Around the same time, a completely separate controversy spread online after AI-generated audio falsely claimed Cunningham had made inflammatory comments about black players. The fake recording accumulated millions of impressions before many people realized it wasn't authentic. The incident highlighted how difficult it has become to separate genuine interviews from convincing AI-generated misinformation circulating across social media platforms.
Teachings and advice she gathered over the 40-plus years in corporate America. One leader who stuck with her for more than a decade is retired four-star Admiral Bill McRaven, who went viral for a 2014 commencement address at the University of Texas, where he shared his life lessons from his Navy SEAL training. McRaven's most well-known piece of advice, quote, "If you want to change the world, start off by making your bed." But
Reaction to Cunningham's real ESPN comments remained sharply divided. Critics labeled her transphobic, mocked her online.
By making your bed. But Kathy Engelbert focused on another teaching from McRaven. Quote, "It's easy to lead in good times," Engelbert told ESPN in a phone interview last week. "Where leaders really emerge, in my experience, is when you're your best in your darkest moments and you don't give up." She's been terrible. She's been terrible. One of her number one problems is not publicly heading trouble off at the pass. And I'm talking about...
When asked again about protecting girls' sports, Cunningham reiterated that her position was rooted in common sense and support for Title IX. She emphasized that she doesn't view herself as especially political, but believes in remaining true to her personal values. Rather than issuing a clarification or apology, she stood by her comments, saying she believes women's sports should continue providing equal opportunities for female athletes.
The pass, and I'm talking about having a press conference, getting in front of people, and taking the bullets. She refuses to do it. Remember, she's literally at the same golf tournament where Dan Patrick is hosting his show, and she backed out. She ghosted him on an interview that went mega viral after she did it because Dan Patrick drowned her, and then so did everybody else. She refused to take responsibility. Engelbert has...
Because Cunningham refused to back down, some critics called for league discipline. The Indiana Fever responded with a statement saying its players are thoughtful adults, entitled to their own opinions, while reaffirming that fans from every background are welcome and deserve respect. Some conservatives wanted stronger public support for Cunningham's position, while others viewed the team's neutral approach as an appropriate response for a professional sports organization.
She refused to take responsibility. Engelbert has navigated numerous challenges in her 7 years as WNBA commissioner, from 2 collective bargaining negotiations to a global pandemic and social unrest, to inheriting a business with, in her terms, quote, "no money, no scale, no capability." Yet she might be living the darkest moments of her tenure now. The tempest surrounding her leadership emerged last fall when Sophie Cunningham, one of the league's biggest stars, said an explosive end of...
Many observers now see Cunningham's experience as part of a broader cultural shift. Rather than immediately apologizing during public controversies, more public figures appear willing to maintain their positions, despite sustained online criticism. Supporters argue that constant outrage often pushes people further toward their existing beliefs instead of persuading them to change, making backlash less effective than it once appeared.
Sophie Cunningham, one of the league's biggest stars, said in an explosive end-of-season interview that Engelbert was negligent in her governance and the WNBA had, quote, "the worst leadership in the world." It's hard to argue. You throw in the fact that nobody will take responsibility for terrible officiating. Nobody will actually do anything about it. She's got problems. And look, there's some bad commissioners out there. Bad.
Meanwhile, attention has shifted to WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. According to reporting from ESPN, multiple league sources believe 2026 could be her final season leading the WNBA. While some speculate her departure is connected to controversies surrounding Caitlin Clark, others believe broader dissatisfaction with league leadership, officiating, and player relations has contributed to growing pressure for new leadership.
10 months later, what should be a celebratory summer of the league's 30th season of the WNBA's brilliant star power, you can tell this is ESPN, and of the making through a strenuous labor negotiations with a historic agreement has felt like one of aspiration. Players, teams, fans consistently and loudly voice frustrations over officiating, divisive discourse, and increased harassment towards players seem never ending.
Engelbert has overseen the league through collective bargaining negotiations, the pandemic, and significant business growth, but criticism has intensified following several high-profile controversies. Reports suggest owners, executives, and league insiders increasingly question whether she remains the right leader moving forward. Although no decision has been officially announced, speculation about her future continues as discussions begin over who might eventually guide the WNBA into its next chapter.